Monty Ossenforth and any general manager out there ultimately is going to be judged by his ability to acquire a quarterback. Mm-hmm. And I say acquire. I know he didn't acquire him. Acquire, decide, manage the quarterback position.
Make sure you drop a like on this video and, of course, subscribe to PHNX Sports as our coverage continues from Super Bowl Radio Row. And we go to one of the experts, one of the many out here, but love to get to have the conversation with Thomas Dimitroff, of course, the Atlanta Falcons, the Patriots in your past, but now Sumer Sports, doing some great work over there. A lot of innovation as far as how you guys are breaking down the analytics and how teams can scout each other and their teams as well. When you look at these two teams, Thomas, in the Super Bowl, what is something that, as I cover the Arizona Cardinals or any of the other 30 teams in this league, that what can they replicate that the Eagles and the Chiefs do so well?
Look, I mean, I do think it starts with the general managers, right? These two general managers, you know this, Howie Roseman and Brett Veach are at the top of their game. And what they do, I think, is they are very aggressive in how they are building their teams. Aggressive meaning they're going to know and they're going to be very in detailed with their coach and their coaching staff. By the way, that's huge. If you're a general manager and you're just kind of doing your own thing and you're not getting all the information from your coaching staff, you're going to be bringing in the wrong players for the wrong fit, it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So it's vital to make sure you're connected. Look, Monty has that in his background. Mm-hmm. Monty Ossenforth knows how that is. That's what Bill Belichick did, and he forced on all of us young guys who were with the Patriots back in the day. So they do understand that.
You talk about the coaching staff and the Cardinals 8-9 on the out of the playoffs, but looking in, and a nice second year under Monty Ossenfort and JG. But what we have seen this offseason is, their offensive line coach goes as the offensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys now, and Clayton Adams and their OCs getting a head coaching interview with the Bears before they land on Ben Johnson. They've got four guys that, 4 positions in year 2 under Gannon. There's a lot of intrigue in that staff. As much as it stinks to see guys exit the organization, there's a lot of eyes on them as well.
A lot of eyes on them. And I know 3 years of not making the playoffs in a row, right? Yeah. They have only 2. I get it. But organization, fan base, people are getting, they want it. And they're seeing the positives there, right? I mean, I think JG is I love how he coaches. I love his personality. Mm-hmm. I really like what he's doing. I know Monty from many, many years back, and I know Monty is passionate and wants to do all he can for that head coach. That is a big thing. And what happens is organizations out there do look at those organizations like that, and they draw people from an organization that are positive and hard work and roll your sleeves up, football dudes through and through. And I think that is a really important part. But it is tough. When you start losing the people that are helping be your foundation, your coaching foundation, is complicated, man. And they're going to have they already replaced those positions?
They have, yeah. They've hired a new offensive line coach. They dipped into a pipeline we're very familiar with, the Ohio State program. They get Justin Fry there as their new O-line coach, and they stay in the collegiate ranks for their defensive line coach. So it's some interesting moves, but, ones they're held in high regard. So it looks like, it's nice little...
And I would say this, and I think you know this. You pay the money for that O-line guy, man. I don't care who you are. You get the best you can get.
Yeah.
I think secondarily is trying to make sure you get the D-line coach. Those 2 spots are so important.
Yeah.
I had someone ask me the other day, they're like, man, but you were never about building your teams with O-line. And I'm like, look, I do believe that we did do that. I think if I ever got a chance to come back, and I, of course, had a couple interviews this offseason, and I was focused on wanting nothing more than to come back and build through that offensive line, because I think it's so important to be a rough and tumble team in this league. Is so important. If you get the O and D line together on that, I think it's vital.
What's the separator? It seems like this is such a huge time in a rebuild. It's like, okay, you take over, you've got, pretty good draft capital, you've got the money to spend salary cap wise. It seems like it's relatively easy to go from 4 wins to 8 wins, and then that's where it kind of separates, the good regimes from the ones that maybe struggle.
No, I think it is. I think it is, honestly. I think if you're thoughtful and you're mindful about how you go out in free agency and spend appropriately and hopefully build through the draft, and then you have the right coaches. Remember, the coaches that are going to develop the players. You can't just bring people in today's world, and especially on the O-line, and expect them just to develop. It's a different practice setup now. So your coaches must be adept developers. And I swear, if you get a coach in there that you think is a great guy and scheming on the board and he talks well, but he doesn't want to develop, you're in a really tough spot.
From the great analysis that you guys do over at Sumer Sports, what do you make of Kyler Murray now, 6 seasons into his career? He's got the second, his first, he's off his rookie deal, is now in the big deal, the $230.5 million contract. He's cost them, probably about $43 million cap-wise next season. How do you evaluate Kyler Murray, and where can the Cardinals potentially go with him at QB?
Look, I really like him. I think he comes to the table with such excitement. Of course we see him. He's a dual threat beyond, and he has the ability to compete. And I'm so glad because I was kind of down with the whole Steve Keim thing when things were going on there. I love Steve. It's a good friend of mine. I know things didn't work, end up well there. But when that happened, I thought, well, it's time to trade Kyler. But I realized here, this is where he should be, and I think you continue to build with him. I don't know some of the nuances. You guys are around it a lot more as far as personality and where that's playing out. Has that I'm not interviewing you.
No, it's fair.
Where is that?
What is the context? Absolutely. Yeah, this organization, since Monty Ossenford and Gannon kind of took the reins, they've emboldened and empowered Kyler Murray, and I think it's paid off for him. Right? I mean, you've seen him kind of take steps as a leader. He's as competitive as they all come as far as the quarterback position. So, I think he checks those boxes. But when you look back at this past season, especially post-bye, this was a team that was leading the NFC West at 6-4. They come back after the bye, and then things just kind of fall off. Kyler struggles. He throws more interceptions than he throws touchdowns during that. So it's a tough evaluation, to be able to buck the trend of he doesn't win in this spot of the season. It's unfortunate, kind of threw gasoline on that. But I think when you're in your seat and you're looking at this guy who puts you in a position consistently to win, it's tough to move off unless you see a true pivot point.
Well, man, look, I sit there and I think about it all the time. You take this year's draft class, it's exponentially less overall talent than last year's. Not saying there aren't some talented people there, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying as a group, this is not an easy group to think you're just going to pull. I know you guys or Arizona isn't in that spot where they're going to pick the top 3. I get that. But I guess my point on that is when you have a quarterback with the requisite traits to star and to win, ultimately win championships, because he does have that. People could argue it any different way. He does have that. That's how he plays out in the end. I get it. There are so few quarterbacks out there that do possess all of the traits that he does. So it's complicated. It's not easy. I say this all the time. Monty Ossenforth and any general manager out there ultimately is going to be judged by his ability to acquire a quarterback. And I say acquire. I know he didn't acquire him. Acquire, decide, manage the quarterback position. If you do that well, you possibly do get extra contracts, and possibly if you do get fired, you get a chance to be rehired. It's not, by the way, that doesn't happen that often. I just say that quarterback position is vital. So you're not just naturally going to say, let's just move on from this guy and try to find someone. It's not always that easy to do that.
Which area do you think that this team needs to focus on this offseason? As you mentioned, not a top pick, but 16th overall. It's a defensive kind of draft. A lot of good front 7 players, and I think that's something that they probably should look into, whether it's the D-line or one of these talented edge rushers. Whether it's free agency or the draft, where would you really kind of shift your focus?
Yeah, man, I really do. I love what this edge class is this year. This is a really, really top notch, as it is tight end. I think the tight ends, there's some great ones there. But defensively, I think, JG, I think the idea of bringing someone in here and continue to get upfield, and you're gonna pick from 5 or 6 or maybe even more that are, I think, can be difference makers. Remember, though, and I say this all the time, the DPRs or the designated pass rush type of guys, there are a lot of mistakes made there as well, right? Because, look, I was a part of them. I mean, we take Vic Beasley, not to go back into Atlanta days, but we take Vic Beasley, beautiful athlete, just everything about him. He leads the league in sacks when we got to the Super Bowl, and then he just fizzled out for a reason. Well, the point is, we are all driven by needs as general managers in this league and head coaches, and you need a pass rusher. So you see a guy that looks great, flashy, and then all of a sudden there's a fizzle element there. There's a lot more of that than people think. Of course, there are on quarterbacks. There are on that. That said, I think this is a really good group this year.
Yeah, I just need to get one more bit of your expertise here because you had Julio Jones for so long. Marvin Harrison Jr. comes into this league, and the expectations are up here, and he probably came in just a little bit below, and maybe that's unfair, but his numbers are pretty much right on par with where his dad's were. He's got a bust in Canton. He's got a gold jacket. But for Cardinals fans that are a little bit worried, they see the rest of his draft class at his position. Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr. have these big-time seasons. So did Ladd McConkey. What would be your messaging to Cardinals fans who saw, Marvin Harrison Jr., 885 yards, 8 touchdowns. Seems like he'll be just fine. But what's your opinion?
I think he'll be just fine. I mean, he is such a talent, and I would take a deep breath as the fan base and say, look, you get some momentum going there. I mean, Julio had a nice first year, of course. I don't have his data right in front of me.
Yeah.
But he continued to excel, and he obviously, I think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think this guy has such pedigree, and I think everything is just going to be fine. There are some great ones out there.
Yeah.
I mean, but think about it. I mean, Malik Neighbors is in a situation where he was rising on a team that was really in a tough spot this year. You never know how it plays out.
Yeah. Just tell our audience, the cutting edge that you guys have going on with the Sooner Sports, your analysis, the in-depth scouting that you guys do. Take us through it.
Yeah, so we are a football data analytics company. We are a combination of subjective and objective. So our subjective is made up of 600 years of plus NFL experience. So we have 5 former general managers and the rest scouts, 25 person scouting staff. And we do all of the subjective work we're doing is a really strong foundation part of the algorithms and the models that we're putting together with what I call our propeller heads, and I love our propeller heads. They're all wildly smarter than most people in this building. They take all that information, create these really cool models, and then we turn all that around along with all the other advanced data out there, and we create these models and we sell back to the NFL. And we are also in the NCAA. We're dealing with a lot of NIL and portal work with a number of programs. So, but again, remember, it's roster management. This isn't game time decision making.
Yeah.
That's another arm for us, of course. But you go online. I think there's a great. I really like what our online work is and what we present and all the advanced data available to the public.
Yeah, Sumersports.com, right? That's the website right there.
Right.
SUMER Sports. Thomas Dimitroff, former Falcons GM, of course, been around the game for a long time, including working along with Monty Ossenfort in the New England Patriots organization for so many years. Helped him cut his teeth a little bit.
Yeah, look, I'm really excited for him. He's such a good guy, and he's hyper conscientious, which is, I think, a really good trait for a general manager. He cares about detail for sure.
Yeah. Great stuff from Thomas. Thank you so much. Always great to talk to you out here.